Good morning and welcome to the new media show. My name is Todd Cochrane. We've got, of course, my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee, on the other line. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good, Todd. It's great to be back on the new media show. It's awesome. So, what are we going to talk about today, Todd?
Uh, well, to start off with, parents and podcasters, do you have a gamer in your house that you're having challenges with? There's a new device. It's called Tech Restarters, designed to, it's always good to reset your router once in a while. And when you've got a League of Legends player in your house that's an adult going to school that's driving you crazy, you can restart your router with a timer. It's a beautiful thing. I heard the scream of agony at 1 o'clock in the morning last night. So,
What? Dad, what did you do?
and not only that, I have
Yeah.
three of them. So I shut off the router. Then about an hour later, I shut off um, the switch, and then yeah, it's beautiful. Turn them off for like 2 minutes. This is a wonderful. $20 on Amazon, folks.
Well, you can plug one of those directly into the Xbox too, right?
Well, it has. It's best when
Or,
it's very hard to get to the power cord. So it took me like it took me a while to get them installed because my everything is kind of buried. And so,
yeah.
yeah, and it's not easy for him to go rearrange cables and find it and unplug it. And yeah, but anyway. Well,
Yeah, yeah, and one of the reasons to do that is if you're doing a live video podcast, you don't want your kid using all your bandwidth while you're
no,
doing the
no,
show.
no. Matter of fact, if you start lagging and YouTube starts lagging, which I'm watching right now because he's in there, he's been up all night, one of those all night marathons, and I have the actual cord that's right on the other side of the desk that is, for the switch that's in the garage because that's where the gaming stuff is. I'll just go down and I'll disconnect him from the wired internet. Anyway, yeah. Uh, and it's a good point. If you have kids, then you haven't got any gaming stuff yet. Don't do it. Don't buy no Xbox, no PlayStation 4. Don't do it. Just little. If you're gaming yourself, put yourself on hiatus when your kids get old enough to want the console joysticks. It's
Yeah, there you go.
yeah. Anyway, enough on that. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the new media show, not the gaming parenting show. So
Yeah.
anyway, Rob, the big week this week. Lots of news still. I mean, it's just like I didn't see any mergers or investments, but I did see lots of discussions in the space, lots of articles. Anything that caught your
Oh
eye
yeah.
that you thought was worthy of some commentary?
Well, I saw one talking about podcast directory, the future Rolodex of podcasting services as part of our effort. You know, drawing this correlation between a Rolodex and podcasting. I don't know about that.
So
I know it's just symbolism.
was it
Yeah.
some existing actual podcast directory, or were they just talking about the value of having a podcast directory?
I think it may have been what is it? Pod to Pod may be doing something with the podcast directory themselves.
Oh,
So
that's
they
cool.
launched something on their a website here that lists different podcasting services, and so they're still building it out, but it lists audio sharing consultants, Facebook communities, guest booking services, meetups, podcast advertising, conferences, podcast equipment, legal services, marketing. You know, just it's like a categorization of different aspects of podcasting and the services and companies that are out there.
Right.
So,
Well, they've
so
been
I thought
slowly
that was
building.
interesting.
They've been Joseph and they've been slowly building out the site, and I think though they've got a Slack channel, and I kind of liked it better on the Slack channel that they had when they kind of curated some of the news that was coming into the podcast news section because they've got a bot that's now picking up and it's pretty good. It doesn't miss anything. It's podcast news related, and but some of the stuff is, I guess it's better to see it all than to miss a few things. But they use a tool called Zapier, Zapier, to find all the podcast articles and they post that. So those of you that know what we're talking about, pod2pod.com has a Slack channel it's pretty good. They've got advice, a general. You can introduce yourself. There's their curated playlist, and then news. A lot of podcasters are hanging out over there. So if you've never used Slack before, it's a good place to get an introduction to Slack and see the value of it. So
Yeah, Todd, I would say that most of the articles that are coming out, in support of the podcasting space now are usually more related to content these days. They're not
yeah,
really.
yeah.
There's not a lot of what I would call kind of um, critical articles in the podcasting space per se as an industry. It's just more featured on the content, which I guess is indicative of what's happening in the space. Um, there's just a lot of energy going into content now.
I think it's
So
par for the course, and the only folks that that put out a lot of content per se, or that are podcast related, that's maybe helpful for podcasters as far as tutorials and stuff is folks like Daniel, and we put some articles out on our PowerPress website, and there's that's kind of where the a lot of the meaty articles are. Dave Jackson, those guys, they're putting out stuff that has a lot of intrinsic value. So that's where I see a lot of that type of stuff these days. And of course, the reporters never get it right anyway. So
yeah, well, there's oftentimes it's hard for a reporter to get it right because they're not experts in the space. So, and unfortunately, they don't always talk to those that are.
right.
Um, yeah, as we've talked about many times on this show. So interesting.
I've this week was really kind of meeting week. I had a lot of meetings with a lot of commercial folks. So that I think we see as much. Last year was all radio folks. Now it's a large number of commercial entities and being companies and that type of stuff. So I think
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a big increase here on those types. So it's exciting to talk to those folks because you can kind of you can mold them a little bit in their especially if it's in their initial discussions.
hmm Yeah, there's definitely a lot of companies getting into this space that you wouldn't think normally would be getting involved in podcasting. I mean, it's almost like this brand marketing or content marketing opportunity is what a lot of them are looking at it as, and it's really kind of becoming a big thing with a lot of. I mean, and I talk to a lot of people every week too, and everybody. I mean, it feels like everybody wants to start a podcast network these days.
Right.
Um, I mean, they want to launch a show, but then they have ambitions to have like 5 shows or 6 shows or 10 shows. Um, I see a lot of interest in that going on right now, um, which I'm not sure that a lot of people realize the challenges that are inherent in launching a network. So, um, in making it successful is a lot of work.
Mike Dell and I, we do every other week we do a show called Your Podcast over on Blueberry, and
Yeah,
we talked about this exact topic Thursday morning when we recorded the show, and
hmm
it was how do I want to describe this? It was what we're seeing, and actually Angela brought my attention to it is that there is a median number now. It's actually, that used to be not even really recognizable on how many shows an individual podcaster did. It was 1.0 something, on a per user
Yeah.
basis. But now, a lot of podcasters are doing a second show. I mean, a lot more than I would
Yeah.
expected, and we're actually seeing a movement on the right where it's 1.2 or 1.3 or something like that. As far as at least our customers go, that's the number of shows that's the mean or the median, or I know there's a big difference between those two totals, but I don't have the data he sent me over, but it's actually shifting to the right. So a lot of people are creating two shows. So, and that's maybe a little bit different than what you're talking about, Rob, about starting a network, but it goes along those same type of lines. That
Yeah, it's not just one show. They want to create a bunch of niche shows
mm-hmm,
um, on a topic focus. Um, yeah, I've been scanning an article that was in Rain News about how different generations are listening to radio, and like the Generation Z, which is the younger generation beyond the millennials. Um, you look at what they're doing in listening to like radio. Um, it's down to like it's down like a third compared to millennials.
mm-hmm,
Um, and then I look at live. They're still watching live and DVR and time shifted TV. That's the most of where they spend their time is watching TV, is what it looks like. And just like what we were talking about earlier, the game console stuff with um, millennials um, is a is a little bit higher than the Generation Z, which is the younger group. But it looks like it's definitely they're spending most of their time. It looks like uh, on a multimedia device is what they're designating. I'm not quite sure what that is. Um, I don't even see a lot of time on a smartphone either. That younger generation doesn't seem to be spending a lot of time on a smartphone, which is kind of interesting.
well,
I, I
what
don't know. Yeah,
what I see here at this house is, in matter of fact, my 14-year-old, he basically he can never clear the history. That's one of the rules. You're going to have a computer and you're going to have a browser. No clearing history. And
yeah,
periodically, I will go look, at the history and scroll back a week or so. And what I see him doing is spending a lot of time on YouTube. I mean, just a lot of time on YouTube,
uh,
and then looking for tips, tricks, and maybe a homework topic here and there. And then, believe it or not, information on recording videos and that kind of stuff. So, um,
yeah.
yeah, I think that falls in line, and we all see it. If you have kids and they're in the car with you, and if they have a mobile device, they are not listening to what you're listening to. They're tapped into something else. So, the
Yeah.
radio's screwed. They things are going to change very quick for them as this next group of kids are fully connected from the get go, and they're not going to want to listen to the radio. That's why they're
Well,
pushing
I mean,
iHeart so big.
yeah, I mean, one thing that's really interesting too, if I look at this research, is that the consumption of media just generally across the board is like half what it is with millennials. Um, just it's like with the millennials, it's like 9 to 10 hours a day of various forms of media. With the Generation Z, it's like 10 hours or 4 hours, so it's like less than half.
Hmm.
Um, so what this particular research is showing is that they're just consuming a lot less. I don't know if it's the age group that they don't have access to that stuff. It's really odd. If you look at the millennials, the Generation Z, the baby boomers, we're like huge media consumers, but this Generation Z is like a huge departure. It like drops less than half
Well,
of the
Rob,
consumption of.
what's the age
Yeah,
group for Generation Z?
I don't know. We should look that up here just to see
Because
what it is.
let's
I
let's
think.
be honest. If they're if it
Let's see, Generation Z. What is Generation Z? Uh, we should look that up here.
yeah, I'm googling it on Wikipedia right now. So it's gender is a demographic say mid 1990s to mid 2000s are the starting birth years. So I don't know. I still
Okay.
think my 19-year-old's a millennial. So I guess he's a Generation Z. Huh. Okay. Post millennial. Well, I don't know. I maybe it's just my household. I got a fully connected bunch of you know meaty hounds here. So of
Yeah.
course,
Well,
they yeah,
I mean, I'm sure that they
it's
they grew up in a house that was
yeah,
very much
yeah, very connected.
connected to the internet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's also a
So
socio demographic economic type of thing too. So I don't know. I just I think so far we've you know I think the radio no matter what is going to have challenges. Hey,
yeah.
did I talk about this these and this is something that I'm going to be talking to podcasters about a little bit more. Did I talk to you about beacons? Did I talk about proximity beacons at all to you, Rob?
Yeah, I think we have talked about them actually in the past,
Okay.
like months ago.
Yeah,
I
so
don't think we've talked about them here recently. I think you were working with one here in Hawaii or something like
yeah,
that.
and I had some at the podcast movement show and everything. So, long story short, I found a source for these that the company is going through. It was three beacons for $50 a month, and turns out they're just raping us. I found beacons online for $10 each and no monthly fee. So this is a
Oh, awesome.
yeah, this is pretty open source. You just need two apps to set them up and a Google developers account. And I didn't even realize that this was a feature. This is something Google purposely put in the Android phone. But let me show them to you here. This is the size of them, and they're just like in a little key fob. And anything that's within about 100 meters gets it's a notification on the phone. So they're designed for businesses, restaurants, shopping centers, that type of stuff. But I've had very, very good luck with these. I've got one of them tied to my subscribe on Android link for Geek News Central, and
Uh-huh.
I've been watching my numbers and actually asking my audience to report in if they've subscribed because of a notification on their phone, and I got my first two emails from listeners saying, "Hey, I found your show because of this pop-up that happened when I was driving to work." So I picked up two Hawaii listeners at least from using this, at least admitted to it. So
Wow.
it's a pretty slick thing. So at some point I'll be probably putting a tutorial out on how to do this, but it's very inexpensive way to do promotion. You have to be careful because you can be spammy about it. So you just have to not be spammy, but they work out real good. Anyway, you guys can read up on it. Proximity beacons, and just so everyone's square, that you just have to buy the beacon. You don't have to pay someone a service fee every month to do them. That's
So what technology does it use to communicate with the phone? Is
it
it
uses
Bluetooth?
Bluetooth. Yeah, Bluetooth,
It
and
does use Bluetooth.
if you
Okay.
have your Android phone, you have Bluetooth turned on and
Wow.
location. You have to have both those things turned on. So not everyone always has Bluetooth and location turned on. You
Yeah.
get within 400 meters of this, and it will periodically send a notification, and you'll see it in your standard notification window. And these are going to my sister, but I just keep them in my car in a plastic baggie, and they stay in there continuously. But there's all kinds of cool opportunities with these things. So Ryan's been playing with them. Well, Ryan's in the chat today, and he took it to an event, and use a Bitly link to track how many people are tracking through. And on an average day, if I'm driving around or if I'm going to an event, I'll get anywhere between 30 and maybe as high as like 45 click throughs on just having these with me. Um, it's amazing that many people will actually click through something that pops up on their phone. So,
Interesting.
yeah, it is kind of cool. It's kind of like the iBeacon for iPhone, but the iBeacon in an iPhone is tied to apps. You have to have the iBeacon technology built in the app. So, in other words, you're in Macy's, let's say, and if they have iBeacon built into the Macy's app, you're walking around the store, you'll get notifications about sales and that type of stuff while you're in the store. That's what it was really designed for.
Yeah, sure, sure.
So,
Interesting.
but it's been fun and it's kind of a cool way to advertise my show to Android users. And
Oh, yeah.
I'll be putting up a tutorial on how to do it. So, anyway, it was kind of off topic, but I wanted to share it because we talked a little bit about it before. And but yeah, I found a source for them, and we're actually going to buy some from a Chinese vendor and see if because what I want to do is I want to buy these in bulk. I want to be able to buy like 1,000 of these and then give them away or leave them places.
Just leave.
Yeah,
So how long do they actually keep transmitting? Is there like a built-in battery inside
yeah.
of
There's
it?
a battery. There's like a standard, watch battery, and they'll last 2 years, is what they say they'll last. The battery will last 2 years. Yeah. So anyway,
Gotcha.
and it's in the guts of them are pretty simple. They just have you pop the lid. It's no bigger than this. This is the size of it. So
Oh
it's
wow.
yeah, it's really small.
Yeah, you can hide those anywhere.
Yeah. And they come in a little, they come in a little case, and you can actually buy waterproof cases for them. And so yeah, if you were at Podcast Movement and got a notification about Blueberry podcasting services, that was me. And as I was advertising Blueberry at Podcast Movement on people's Android phones. So
Oh.
yeah. But let me show you. Let's see if I can find it. I mean, the obscure things we talk about on this show, right?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at a research study that was put out by Westwood One of all places on podcasting.
Oh, okay.
So
And
lots of data in here. Um, really speaking to how podcast advertising is growing. Um,
did you hear Podcast One
and
launched in Australia?
what do you mean they
It,
launched in
they
Australia?
launched a division of their company in Australia. I saw a notification on
Oh,
that.
oh, like a joint venture kind of deal,
Uh,
I don't know,
I,
with another company or something?
it's Podcast One Australia was it
Oh, okay. It's
so it's
probably a joint venture
a
down
subsidiary
there.
or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's true. It could be a new office or something like that. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me real quick before we get into that, let me show you this screen. Here is the Bitly tracking for the one of the proximity beacons that I had at Podcast Movement. So I basically you're limited to 40 characters. It said podcast hosting by Blueberry. And then you have to have an HTTPS link that you send them to. And then here are for example, Thursday, August 24, 120 clicks. Friday 65, Saturday 60. I had forgot to turn them on Wednesday, so I only had 14. So it just kind of shows you, though, going throughout the month how many clicks I've had depending on where I've been traveling. So that kind of gives you an idea of the effectiveness. It's not huge traffic, just, micro traffic. So
Interesting.
it is
Huh.
interesting. But
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
free. Yeah, that's the main thing. It's I wasn't when I was doing that early stuff, but it is now because I I figured out the secret sauce. I'll have a link probably to it in show notes. Give you guys some info on it. So, what was the podcast study on Westwood Wood? And what did they have to say? Just basically the advertising dollars are increasing.
Well, they've got a bunch of slides in here. It's basically a PDF slide deck that's been put out. Here, I can. What's the best way to send you this, Todd?
Just send
Just an
me
email?
send it on Slack if you have
Oh, in
Slack. Oh,
Slack. Okay. I don't. So
yeah, just email
can
it
I
then.
send it to you in email?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, we're kind of
Let's see
convoluted
here.
this morning. This is how the show goes sometimes. Sometimes we're hot on a topic, and then sometimes we're kind of like slow to get going in the morning. So, just kind of the way
Yeah.
this show is.
Well, it's the format of it. We don't do a lot of heavy prep before.
No,
We
prep
try
is,
and
hey, Rob, how you doing? Let's go. That's the prep.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
and stuff we just kind of come across too. Let's see here, Geek News at Gmail.
so I can bring these
But
slides up.
it's
Go ahead.
yeah, it shows. Yeah, okay, I sent it to you.
Yeah, I
Uh,
got it.
they talk about. I can, shoot.
Now you lost the link.
No, no, no. It says it talks about where listeners are listening to podcasts, where the heavy podcast listeners are tech early adopters. Is what it talks about, which I kind of zoomed in on. It
I think we're
talks
past.
about
I think we're
what
past that.
types
Go ahead.
what types of devices are heavy podcast listeners using to listen to podcasts.
Podcast listeners say
And
they listen to more podcasts than they download. That's true for me. Podcast listeners is set between 2 and 4 ads per podcast. I think 4 is pushing it. Like, a lot of these networks are saying, oh, you can put 6 in, or whatever. Millennials
yeah,
have a similar ad tolerance. Podcast listeners prefer multiple ad breaks for 60-minute podcasts. I think I would agree with that. Half of podcast listeners would consider $5 monthly ad-free subscriptions. Well, I don't know about that. I've experimented with that, not
yeah.
had that kind of luck. If I did, hey Rob, if I could get 50% of my audience to give me $5 a month, dude, I will see ya. We're not doing this show no more. I'm going to I'm going to retire to Hawaii. Oh crap, I'm in Hawaii.
Yeah, you're already halfway there, right? Um,
Right. I would buy that. I would buy
yeah.
that. I would be that. I would be Geek News Central on fire, and I would, I'd have a yacht that I would be sailing the world with. Yeah.
So one slide in here talks about podcast content preferences that varies by demographic group, and it says that the number one content topic area or content preference is news and current events
Hmm.
in podcasting. 56% of millennials, or no, 53% of millennials prefer news and current events topics in their podcast.
Well, they're probably
58% of Gen X's.
well. If you think about it, they're probably turned off as the rest of us are with the news networks, and I can hardly stomach to watch. I mean, literally any news network. It's ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, CNN, MSNBC. They
Yeah.
all. I just want to gag. I honestly, I, I don't turn those. They all are absolutely horrible. It's info craptainment is what it is. There's hardly any other news being done anymore. It's all just
Yeah.
opinion bullshit. So, excuse my French, but
Yeah.
so that's why maybe podcasters are trying to get access. But the problem that you're going to run into then is you're probably going to
It's
pick a political show of your choice and not get any diversified opinions.
well, it I mean, and not that many shows are daily shows. So
Right.
that whole concept of having it current events is, at the core, not really what podcasting is based on. Um, the number two category, most popular content preference, is comedy, is what they say in here.
Hmm.
Number three is pop culture. Number four is music. And number five is storytelling drama. Number six is sports. Next is technology, education, health and fitness, business, kids and families, how it breaks out.
Yeah. There's some other things in here, some other key findings. They say, and this is stuff that we all probably agreed to. Podcast listeners prefer ads voiced by the show host over traditional ads. Yet heavy podcast listeners
Yeah.
more accepting of pre-produced ads. I haven't heard that many pre-produced ads. Nearly half of podcast listeners have tried speed listening to podcasts at twice the speed of the original podcast. I have a lot of podcasters that listen to my show by listen two times speed. I've never been able to do it, but I know a lot of folks that do. Um,
Yeah.
so there is some discussions about Westwood One State of Podcasting report says, have you and your colleagues assessed podcast advertising for potential media investment? May of 17, 68%. So who did they ask that question to? Source, advertising perception study of agencies and advertising involving digital mobile radio. Advertising sample size was only 316, so that's a pretty small sample size. How likely you consider advertising podcast next 6 months? 37%. How likely to actually advertise? 27. Do you currently advertise in podcast? 29. I don't believe that. If they talk to 316 people and 29% of them said that they're currently advertising in podcasts, um, well, 316 agencies. Is there that many? 29% of that is what? 70, something like that. I'm just rough in my
Yeah.
head doing the math. Maybe.
Yeah.
What else? Most podcast usage is driven by heavy listeners. Light listeners under 3 week, medium users 3 to 5, heavy listeners 6+ hours a week. I'm definitely in that 6+ hours category. Matter of fact, I'm probably in the 18 to 20 hour category.
So what slide are you on right now?
I'm on 7. I'm looking at the demographics, and they're saying it's definitely. Well, here's interesting. Men 55-45. Um, White 63, Hispanic 17, African American 10, Asian and others 10. I think that sounds about right from a demographic back to our podcast base now. It was a pretty diverse group in podcast movement. I think a pretty even split
Yeah.
between men and women. There was a good minority representation too. I talked to a lot of women that were thinking about doing podcast, and we had a lot of. And I think is, I spent 25 years in the Navy, a most diverse workforce in on the planet, and I'm kind of colorblind now when it comes to just talking to people. I don't really pay attention too much. Um, it's just because it's part of my everyday life. But I think there was probably more African American women than men at the podcast movement. Asian,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember what. I think the Asian percentage probably was the smallest.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was a good Hispanic mix too. So well, you would think so too because of the location of the event. That sounds kind of biased, but we were in California, so there's a heavy Hispanic population in California. So it was pretty. I think as far as producers go, now this is talking about listeners. But don't you
Yeah.
think that the crowd was, it'd be good to get Dan to give us a break. I don't know if they did any demographic data or not.
Yeah, I don't know that they did. Yeah, I haven't seen any,
Yeah.
but but I would say it's a pretty representative um, community.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
agree.
there's definitely some ethnic weak spots still at the event itself.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as male female age range, it's pretty balanced,
Yeah.
is what it seemed to me. But I was looking through their 4 points on their conclusion in the study. I know,
Mm-hmm.
did you make it to the bottom of it?
No, it's what page
Uh,
is that on?
uh, you know what? It doesn't actually say what page it is. It's uh, it's like the last couple of pages at the very bottom.
Okay, all the way down. Man, there's a lot of stuff in this. They put this is not. They did a good job now.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, so
I mean, it does kind of play into what I would say is kind of radio's perspective on podcasting.
mm,
I think their conclusions are, I don't know if what led what as far as their conclusions, but the number one conclusion is podcasts has an opportunity to add more commercial breaks and ad units. Well, that kind of plays into the agenda. Um, you know, it says what, up to 6 ads.
I just of the people that
You
are
know,
on the live stream today, would 6 ads piss you off or not? So just saying the Facebook comments, yes, 6 ads. If you had 6 ads in an hour program, would that two pre's, two mids, two posts, would that drive you crazy? You probably wouldn't listen to two posts.
yeah. So they're saying that their their survey base said 39% say a 60-minute show with 6 ads could have 3 or more ad breaks.
I don't believe that. I just don't believe that.
It's only 39% say that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's still 60% that don't agree with it.
yeah.
Um, and then heavy podcast consumers are more accepting of pre-produced ads, while overall weekly podcast listeners prefer host reads. Heavy podcast listeners are more accepting of pre-produced ads. I think it depends on how the pre-produced ads are produced.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, it can't be like a normal radio spot the that you're being yelled at. I think it needs to be a little closer to what a host read is. Um,
I've
it
said
says,
this. Go ahead, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna jump to the next line item, but go ahead and say what you were gonna say, Todd.
Well, just on the ad count, every podcaster is going to figure this out because I did. My audience was tolerant of 2 ads in a 75-minute program, but when I pushed to 3, I started getting pushback. And of course, mine were post read endorsed ads that were a couple minutes each. So,
Yeah,
you're talking about 6 minutes on a 75-minute program. So, you're close to 10%. So,
yeah.
it's and of course, radio is much, much heavier than that. But every podcaster is going to find out what their audience is tolerant of and when they'll start unsubscribing because that's what happened. Put 3 in
Well, I
and
think
I,
you also, yeah, I think you also get in this situation is that you kind of set the experience with your audience. Um, and if you make dramatic changes by adding a lot of ads, um, then the audience, I think, tends to push back more if a show's been around a long time with very light advertising or no
mm-hmm,
advertising, and then you come in with a bunch of advertising
yeah,
all at once. I think that's when you see a lot of pushback. But if a show launches and has like a fairly heavy load of ads, your audience is kind of, that's just, they just, I think they more easily accept it, or they self filter themselves at the beginning, and you don't see that big adjustment of that filtering, that people come and go based on that.
uh,
So
and I had a
it,
hard time of getting getting the third ad in, so I had a hard time finding a break spot
yeah,
to drop it.
yeah.
So that
But
was
6 ads,
oh,
yeah. I mean, I mean, 6 ads is a lot. I mean, I've worked on shows that have had the equivalent of 6 ads. Some of them were like promos and things like that. It wasn't so much of a commercial ad.
right.
Um, but I think it also gets back to duration too. I think how long are these things? How kind of over the top intrusive they are? How much of a diversion are they from the content? Are they host reads? Are they kind of there's so many variables here
Yeah.
on whether or not your audience will accept that ad load and how those ads are done. I mean, I still don't think that we have really a a model. And Todd, I don't know that we will ever really have a perfect model for advertising and podcasting. I
Yeah.
I think it varies so much between audiences and the abilities of the host to properly do ads. I think it's really a difficult area that we're all still struggling with.
Rick says, could this be a setup by Westwood One to condition the market for ad heavy podcasts in the future? Well, I think that
Oh,
they,
definitely.
yeah, this is when a company pays to have a survey done, and the survey can be how should we say it, guided by the way
Yeah, I mean,
the way the
these
questions
are
are.
like talking points for the radio industry is what
Yeah,
they are.
yeah,
And it does seem a little bit, I mean, these are talking points that have been existed before I saw this study of the positioning of online radio or radio as they look at the podcasting space. It's almost like verbatim, it's just
right.
like one of the bullets down below, and we've talked about this a lot of times, is there's more listens than downloads, Todd. Do you know that?
Oh, there's more
Um,
listens. Yeah, I did see that. There's more listens than downloads.
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
And there's another company that likes to push that narrative right now too. Another survey group, and it's total bunk. Total
Yeah,
bunk.
yeah. Well, it's the listener doesn't really distinguish between the two. They're asking a listener, a survey respondent to quickly distinguish between a listen and a download, and I don't
Yeah.
think
Maybe
most
they don't.
listeners can tell the
They
difference.
don't know the difference. Yeah. And
Yeah,
usually when someone says that I listen, that means they're not subscribed. So that's the better question to ask. Are you subscribed to a podcast or do you just listen to the podcast? You
yeah,
know, oh, yeah, I'm subscribed. Okay. Then that answers the question. It really, and it's kind of funny too because the statistic bear out most of this other data. We know the first 24 hours of most, this is a good, and for those of you that don't listen to the show very often, your first 24 hours that your show's been released, that is a very, 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 very good indication of the number of people that have actually subscribed to your show. Those downloads that come in the first 24 hours are the high majority of those will be podcatchers that will have
yeah,
downloaded and queued the just because we see within literally within seconds of someone's RSS feed updating, we see downloads start to happen. So, um,
yeah. I see a lot of action on my Speaker Live show that I do every week, where the the plays and the downloads they kind of build over almost like an entire week. Um, so it's a little bit of a different use model. It doesn't necessarily spike a lot at the beginning, so that must mean that a lot of people are just coming in and streaming the show off of the website. But there's not a huge number of subscriptions in the like the Apple platform or that kind of thing. But
sounds like you need to work on that, Rob.
I do, but but I also wonder if more and more people are just clicking play.
Well,
They're not
I'm sure. I'm sure there's a percentage,
floating.
but it's also it's a
Yeah.
matter of training too. Do you on every episode tell them please subscribe and tell them how to subscribe?
Uh, not not necessarily.
Oh,
No,
see, there you
I don't.
go.
I don't.
Oh, not,
I
not
don't.
shame, shame, shame. This is this
I I kind of point them mainly
the website,
to
right?
listen on my
Uh,
app. No, no, on my
oh,
app.
on your app,
So I have an app for the show. I have an app for the show
right?
on both of the platforms.
Yeah. Well, I'm at least on my show, and we probably do. I think we do it. Really don't do it enough on this show because we just assume podcasters are going to subscribe because they're podcasters. But the
Yeah.
on my tech show, that's like in the first 3 minutes, I'm telling them where to go and actually show them a screen. Here's where you go. Click on that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
probably to the annoyance of the existing audience, but the goal is subscription, not click to play later when you forgot about it. And 2 weeks later, you come in, oh man, there's 4 episodes I need to get caught up on. And oh man, the news is old, so I'll listen to the latest one. I want it in their device. So,
Yeah. I wanted to go back to. I know you mentioned about the paid subscription slide that's in this deck.
yeah.
And I know that's been something that the radio folks have been really, really keyed in on is how do we charge people per, to listen to our podcast, the whole subscription thing. So this thing really plays into that, that propensity of that industry or that side of this market to want to charge subscriptions
And
for getting access to this content so they don't have to play in this advertising game.
so here's how they load this question. Rob, if you're listening to a podcast and you could get an ad-free version of the podcast, would you be
Yeah.
very or somewhat likely or very somewhat unlikely to pay for that show to have ad-free? If those are the only two choices you were given,
Yeah.
you would say, well, I probably very somewhat like I guess I would pay for an ad-free show. This is where
And
these
yeah,
surveys
and how
are
much, right?
right.
Yeah, and how much too?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, I I can see this survey result here where it's like sitting right at that $5 to $6 range. I know you mentioned that you would love to be able to make this work, um,
I'm
but it's
serious. If half my audience gave me $5 a month, uh, I'm gonna go put the down payment on the yacht the first month. Okay, so it's
yeah, but
I,
they also say in this slide that 12% of heavy podcast listeners would pay $10 a
oh
month.
man, beautiful. I could hire 3 assistants. It's just and
Yeah,
and I've been I
I
and
I
I've
don't
been
know. Okay.
and I've been begging for just to be frank, I've been asking my audience to support financially the show for 5 years, and I think I now get enough donations to the show and some shows are better than this than others, and I also have an advertiser, so I know that probably plays into it, but I now have enough supporters to pay for my assistant, for my executive producer. I have enough donations to pay his bill that comes to me every month. So that's not a down payment on a yacht.
Yeah.
You know,
So nowhere in here do they talk about what kind of content someone would be willing to pay a subscription fee for,
and
um,
and
which is yeah,
how many can an average person pay for? So if someone's a heavy listener, let's say they're listening to
yeah,
5 or 6 shows, are they going to shell out $30 a month for supporting their favorite 5 or 6 podcasts? That's a lot of money. You
I don't
know,
think so. Yeah, I agree with you.
they
I,
might support 1 or 2 shows with a couple of bucks. Um, I just the model. There's only one show that I know of really that does an incredible job with being able to support themselves, and they have to bug their audience a lot, and that's No Agenda. They do a good job with raising money, but and they spend you know 10 minutes of their 2.5 hour program, 10 minutes in 2 different areas thanking, and they've got
yeah,
a program where they knight their you donate up to $1,000, you become a knight of the No Agenda show, um, and
yeah,
and I am a knight of the No Agenda show. So I've contributed to the podcast. It's very compelling. They do it, but they do 2 hours and 30 minutes of a highly they've done a huge amount of research. You can just see they've done clips and everything else that they've had to collect. And I appreciate the work that they do, but it's I don't know. I just don't see it. I wish
Yeah.
everyone was saying, "Yep, wow, let me give you $50 a month."
Well,
I
Todd, I mean, what this really points out from when from looking at the bigger picture is that we're going to see a lot of radio folks or a lot of radio networks really push for this the subscription models with a lot of radio shows. I
uh, good.
I think this. I mean, if you look at the numbers here, that would be the conclusion
Well, good
that
luck to them.
these companies are going to draw. Is that it's the path to go is to have a paid subscription model around your radio show, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's. I mean, if you look at this, I'm sure we're going to start getting more interest, I guess, from the radio industry in having platforms like ours support this kind of stuff. Um, Whether or not it's going to work very well isn't even the point. It's just what the research that's being put out is going to drive more and more of these radio networks to think, well, that's the model that's going to generate money for us,
Yep.
and we don't even have to mess with advertising.
Well,
You know?
be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
So, iPhone 11, excuse me,
Oh yeah.
the iPhone 10, I think it's still cooler to call it the iPhone X, and the iPhone 8. And of course, iOS
Yeah.
11 comes next week. So, any
Yeah.
thoughts on of course, here's the deal with this iPhone 10. And let's call it iPhone X. I think it's just more sexy to say it that way. But anyway, Apple doesn't
Yeah.
want us to do that. The iPhone 10, I don't. What's going to happen with that device is people are like scared of that price tag, but when they see the screen on that thing, uh, they're going to
Yeah.
wet their pants. They're going to because it's you've seen OLED screens before, Rob,
Oh
and
yeah.
they are
They're really nice.
oh, they are
The
really nice.
the old Zune HD device had an OLED screen on it,
Really?
and yeah, it did.
Oh,
I tell you that little Zune was a pretty amazing device. It was really kind of unfortunate
was
what
that
would happen to that
was
device,
was
but
ahead of its time.
but it had a oh, it was very much ahead of its time in a lot of ways. But
And of course, the UI design of it was beside the screen sucked. So yeah,
personal opinion, yes.
yeah.
Uh, but but yeah, I agree with it. Those OLED screens are just the the blacks are just black, and the colors are vibrant.
It it,
It's just an amazing experience.
and if it's as bright as some of the TV screens, now that is the question. We don't know how bright it's going to be because bright equals power consumption. So Um, I need to see this thing. I want to hold it, look at it, hold an iPhone 8 up next to it. It's going to be a stark difference. And I think most people that have it in their budget are going to go with the iPhone 10. Now, I'm not a big fan of this face unlock stuff. Um, I'm just I think losing the button was a bad idea, but what do I know? And I'm sure they're going to sell millions of these things. But at least they give us the option with the iPhone 8 to retain the button and have an incremental upgrade from the 7. So I love my 7.
Oh,
I'm not upgrading.
yeah, are you talking about a hardware button?
Yeah, on the iPhone 7, it's got the button, the
Yeah,
fingerprint button. If they could have figured out how to have done the fingerprint on the OLED, which they tried to do without having an actual physical, click click, um, I think
yeah,
that would have been awesome. But we'll see what happens in future generations. But that phone, that iPhone 10 scares me. There's gonna be a lot of broken screens. You got this
yeah,
beautiful phone, and people are not gonna want to put it in a case, and it will not survive a fall to the deck unless you have it in a case.
yeah. I was really impressed by the version of that phone that's going to have 156K of memory in it.
Yeah.
Um, that's a that's a lot of memory for a phone.
And then the
Yeah,
iPhone, excuse me, the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. Oh my God, another one. I saw that phone. That, if you haven't went Android, that, oh my God, that's another one that's just like, wow, this thing is beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
just
But
physically, you look at it and you're just like, that is one sexy piece of hardware.
yeah, and
Forget
it's
about
got a. I mean,
usability. It's got sex appeal in its design.
I mean, these phones are getting bigger again. They're pushing 6 inches
Uh,
as far as screen size
and I see a lot of people
again.
using big ones. So,
Yeah,
and I find myself now interchanging between it didn't used to, but I find myself interchanging between my phone and my iPad quite a bit, and the experience is nearly the same. I like the
yeah,
iPad on, doing web-based stuff, but really, it's pretty close. So they're incrementally getting us close to taking us away from. Well, they ultimately want us off our desktops, I think. But my
yeah.
wife is she very rarely she drives me insane. Matter of fact, she does stuff on her iPad that I'm like, why don't you get your MacBook out and do it on that? And she goes, I don't want to. I'm just like, she wants me to edit something, and she just uses the onboard keyboard. She doesn't even have a separate keyboard, so it drives me crazy when I have to edit stuff for her. But um, anyway, so iOS 11 will be out next week. And calm down, children.
So
There is
so
no stats yet, not until after Thanksgiving.
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, is there any a clue on when the new podcast app is going to be out
Well, it will
from
be.
Apple?
When it rolls out for iOS 11, the new podcast app will be out next week, 19th.
Okay, okay. So it'll be rolled out with the rollout of the new operating system
Yep,
then.
yep,
Okay.
yep. So all those new
So is it
tags
going to
and
be
everything.
is it going to be pre-installed?
Yeah, I don't know. Hope so.
Yeah, I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah, I don't know on the new phone. So someone that gets a new phone, let us know if it's pre-installed. And Ryan says, I'm getting the X big screen with small hands. So funny. Rick says, "Hey, my
That's it.
if my audience gives me $5 a month, I'd owe $5." Oh, and it's a question I keep getting asked a lot too by podcasters that have smaller shows. That do I need advertising? Should I have advertising? And if you're a smaller show, focus on creating your content
Yeah.
and grow your audience. Put all that energy into you know going where your audience is and building that out. But anyway, that is YouTube still hanging with us. The stream is staying up, so it must be my son took my advice or took my warning and got off the internet. Seems that YouTube is less tolerant than Facebook seems. Their live video stream is pretty solid. I'm going to say right now that Facebook has kind of figured this out almost better than YouTube has. So
Yeah, that new Apple podcast app is pretty nice. That's going to be a nice upgrade for them, um, based on the screenshots that were shared, um, a few months back.
yeah,
So it'll be a nice upgrade.
we've had team members running beta. Um, I don't run a beta, but we've had some team members running the beta, and of course, they use it to test the tags, and it's really slick. The new features, if you're going to implement some of these new tags that are being brought to market here on the update, um,
Yeah,
there's that trailer feature. It's going to be, I think that's going to be real popular. And so many podcasters are like, I want to launch my show on this date, and you tell them episode 0, and they kind of look at you like you don't know what you're talking about. But if you say, create a trailer for your show, like a movie trailer and a little audio trailer, and now we can tell them
yeah,
how to put that in iTunes and submit that feed, and so that they have their trailer there, so that they're up and running. So the day that they
Yeah.
launch, within a few hours, their iTunes listing updates. So, but I keep telling these folks too. Oh, and I'm like, but don't forget, you got to submit to these other places as well. Don't forget about the Android listeners. And I often that get me 9 out of 10 times. You you can listen to podcasts on Android. I'm like, oh my god, please kill me now. Yes, you can.
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of apps over there that you can get that'll
Yeah,
give you that experience.
yep. So yeah, if you want to, actually, you can launch faster on Android than you can on iTunes almost. So
And you never know, there could be a first party app coming there
I'm
at some point.
yeah, I almost guarantee it's going to come. They have to. If they do anything, if they move on the space, there will be. Um, it's just, when will it come? So
Yeah.
anyway, this Westwood one, it's interesting that they've done this. And remember, Podcast One is no longer part of Westwood One, so
It
uh,
never was part of it
no,
actually.
it wasn't.
So no.
Uh,
The only real connection between Podcast
was
One and
Norm,
Westwood One is the founder
right? Is
was
Norm?
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, was Norm.
And I've heard Norm's kind of throttled back a little bit. Have you heard that?
Yeah, you don't hear from him much. I know he's keynoting at LA Podfest
Oh,
here next month.
oh, good.
So I guess he is still poking around, but he's got a new CEO of the company. So,
Are you going
uh,
down to that?
yeah, I'm not sure yet if I am. The idea is being bounced around, but I'm not sure if I'm going to or not.
All right. Yeah, I'm not planning on going to that one.
Yeah, I
Um,
know Rob Walsh is going,
yeah,
but
he's went I think numerous
every
years.
year I think
Yeah,
he's gone. Yeah,
yeah,
he goes down there every year because his platform hosts a lot of comedian podcasts, so he goes down there and schmoozes with all of them.
yep. But we are going to go to PodCon, and I just got the sponsorship deck for Podfest, and had to gulp on that a little bit. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm going to do a call next week with PodCon myself. So you're going to be up there yourself?
yep, I'll be. I think Mackenzie and I will be there, and that's right before the holiday period really kicks off. It's the weekend of
Yeah, it's
December.
the it's 9th and 10th.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
at the Washington State Convention Center. It's right downtown Seattle. So
Mackenzie's going to go to FinCon in Dallas, so we're going to have someone at FinCon. So
okay.
that'll be interesting. I'm not going to go to the FinCon one, so we're going to send
Yeah,
her.
it doesn't appear I'm going either.
She would probably, she's probably going to call me about an hour into it and say, "I'm 25 deep. Why did you not come?" That's what I'm afraid is going to happen. So, well,
Oh, is she going to have a booth down there?
yeah, we got a kiosk.
Oh, a kiosk. Okay.
Yeah, so a little kiosk, a little two-man kiosk. And so she'll be there waving the flag.
Two man two man kiosk with one woman. Is that the plan?
Yes, yes. But Podfest, Florida, I've got this
Oh
wedding,
yeah.
so yeah. But I guess some of my team will be there. I probably will not. I just don't know. It's just too crazy, and we're not doing our
Yeah.
vacation to post wedding. So yeah, I just don't think I can do 2 trips in a row to Florida. I don't think I can stay in the, it'd be tough with kids in
So
school and everything to be out 2 weeks.
so when is that event? Is it's down in Orlando again, I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
yeah, I think it's the 9th and 10th of February. So let me look here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm actually looking it up right now too. Actually, I got some information on that.
Yeah, I got their
Uh,
sponsorship deck, and whew,
okay, 8th and 10th.
8th through the
Oh,
10th.
is it getting expensive?
It's getting expensive. So yeah, we're gonna look at it.
Oh,
And it came right on the heels of us getting the sponsorship deck for Podcast Movement 18. So and get one, make a decision on write a big fat check for Podcast Movement, and then 3 days later I got the Podfest sponsorship deck, and it's like, the sponsorship amounts are
Sticker
about
shock.
are about the same. You're like, oh, so.
Yeah.
But I don't know what their numbers are going to be at Podfest. I think last year, how many was there last year?
I think there's probably like maybe 500 people,
About five.
probably
Yeah.
something like that.
So, yeah, I just, at the wedding, there's going to be no way. Yeah, I just can't do it. If I could talk, the problem is I got kids taking midterms the week of February 11th, and I can't have my kids out of school that week, or have my son taken out of school that week for midterms. So, actually, I'm looking at the wrong calendar here. Let me go down. Yeah, they got midterms the week of the 12th, and then we planned on doing Orlando and doing Tampa the week of the. My daughter gets married on the 17th, so a couple days of that, then fanfare, and then starting on the 19th, we're going to do vacation.
Uh,
If there's anything
I mean,
left of Florida.
well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, Orlando didn't get whacked too bad. Tampa did, but they'll be cleaned up by then.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks
Chances
were.
are I'll be
Go ahead.
going to that. I'll probably wind up going to Podfest.
Yeah.
Odds are.
So I just got to figure out what our sponsorship level is going to be. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, that's what's going on in the events. I think there's probably more, but I heard Matt.
Oh, there's definitely a lot.
What
Yeah.
did Francesco say about Midwest? How did that go?
Oh, the Mid Atlantic
Yeah,
podcast
yeah, Mid
conference.
Atlantic. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he said it was about the same size as it was last year. It was probably around 100 people show up. It's a very kind of regional,
sure.
event. So yeah, I mean, he said it was good.
Not good.
I was kind of hoping that the event would have grown a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's the nature of it. I mean, it caters to a particular kind of region of the country, so it hasn't turned into like a national event. I guess there's just so many events now for people to choose from, um,
Well,
to go to. I know that.
that's about as far east as any event there is. So
Well, and that's where Podcast Movement's going to be next year,
yeah,
is in that
it's
area
in
right
Pittsburgh.
there.
Yeah.
So, oh, no, in Philly.
Oh, in Philly. I keep saying Pittsburgh. Why do I keep saying that?
Yeah, yeah.
Then
And and, and then Pod Summit is going to be happening up in Canada. I'm gonna look that up here. I haven't looked up that lately.
is that the one that's in Toronto?
Uh, I don't know where he's going to hold it this year. And it was in Calgary last year.
Mm.
So let's see if he's got any kind of update on that I can see.
And that was
I
a
was up
pretty.
at that. It was a pretty decent event. I mean, it was. I mean, it was still relatively small. Okay, doesn't look like he has new information up yet.
No new dates yet,
So,
so it'll be sometime next year then.
well, no, wait a minute. Pod Summit, September 30th,
That's a
2017
that's
in
a couple.
Calgary.
I guess you're gonna. If you were planning on go,
Wow.
that's on International Podcast Day.
Wow. I didn't realize that it was happening that soon. Wow. Okay.
Well, that's definitely a conflict date wise, isn't it? With everything going on International Podcast Day.
Yeah, well, it doesn't look like I'm going then.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even that as much as I'm supposed to be doing something else.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
on that day.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Podcast Awards voting. I don't know if we've shut it off, but voting ended last night. I got to check with the system admin, see if it's been shut off. But we should have our. I shouldn't be able to log in here and see who my winners are, but I'm not going to do that during the show.
Yeah. It seems like the Pod Summit thing seems like a much kind of smaller event this year or this time.
There's a big
A lot
event.
of the same.
there's a big event
There's a lot of the same people.
that I really wasn't aware of, and I was kind of asking about it. Let me see if I can find it. And I got it confused. There's two events that are happening. Um, let's see if I can find it. And we were poo-pooing an event recently that was going to cost $5,000 for people to attend. Where the hell is that? Uh, it's an online event for a week, and it's being okay. Here it is. There's okay, so there's two summits. Podcast Success Summit. There's a lot of people are that well-known people are participating in, and I believe it's next week. Let me see if I can Google it and find it. Daniel was talking about it. Okay, so podcast success summit.net is I guess this is the second year, and I don't know how, but this has been completely off my radar. September 18th to the 22nd. It's a virtual free event during the event, and they have speakers every day. Like day one um, is basically got Dave Jackson, Elsie, and Jessica doing a impactful podcasting, and then there's a gal doing planning your podcast content, unpacking, repurposing content. So it's basically a whole series of online sessions that
Yeah.
have a whole bunch of, and it looks like kind of almost a podcast, a 101 series. It gets you all the way from uh, content ideas to SEO to audio to marketing. So anyway, there's a bunch of people that are participating on this online event. It's brought to by a guy named Jan Ilunga. And have you ever met Jan? I don't
Yeah,
think
I've been on his show before.
you
Yeah.
have.
Uh, yeah, about a year ago now. I was on a show. Yeah, I think I was involved in this. I think he had it last year.
Yeah, it is. This is the
Uh,
second year
yeah, I was involved in it last year, I think.
for the event. But they're going to have that so that you know, here's a problem too. Is it it's not a problem per se, but um, people are working. Podcasters are working. You're going to do an event where people have to come online during business hours for a whole week. I don't know how many people are going to be able to actually sit and watch these. I guess it's an online video thing. So, anyway, that's going on next week for those of you that are interested in that. And there's a lot of good
Yeah.
speakers on the list. A lot of people that are names you can trust in podcasting. So,
Oh yeah,
should be a good event.
definitely.
But then there's a follow-on event that was the event that I was kind of,
Yeah.
um, yeah. The other summit is the one in San Diego that has the bald head dude that was at New Media Expo pitching stuff. And I don't know if you remember that back in the day, the prior to the podcast awards, there was a session going on where there was a guy that was kind of a inspirational speaker slash.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard about it. I didn't go to it, but I heard about
Yeah,
it.
well, yeah, everyone talked about it. So he's one of the speakers at that other event, and I'm like, oh man, run, run, run.
Oh, now now one other event that's happening on the 24th is being put on, I thought, by Harry Duran. It's the Oh no, I don't think it's this one. It's the Podcasting for Thought Leaders launch initiative. That's the one that charges $2,500.
Whoa, was that the one in San Diego?
I'm trying to get to.
Well, anyway,
Uh,
yeah, It was one of those events that was really swarmy, and
Yeah.
so and it wasn't. It was for business owners. It was that's who it was designed for. But so many lots of events. There's something there for everybody. So definitely, you can check out some of the stuff is over on. Not everything is on the Pod to Pod event list. Like this podcast
Yeah.
success summit was not even listed on the Pod to Pod site. So
Oh, I think it was the one. I think it's called the New Media Summit. Is the other one?
oh, is
Yeah.
that
Did you mention that one?
is that? Oh yeah, that's we really need a show that's really close to this show's name. Uh, new media. Oh yeah, there and it's going on September 22nd through the 24th. So you've got
Yeah.
and is who's running this one? Oh yeah, yeah, this is the one. 40 of the world's leading podcasters who are looking for guests just like you to feature on their high visibility show.
Yeah.
Who ended up being sponsors of this? Oh yeah, this was. Oh yeah,
Private one-on-one meetings with 40 of today's leading icons of influence. Yeah.
yeah. So you've got, um, yeah. Just look under the sponsor list, and but yeah, only 30 seats left. So they must have. It's, hurry, hurry, buy it now. Spend the $2,500. Let's see who the guest experts are. Um, you. Oh boy. You've got Michael Neal, Jeff Brown. You've got Mark Rocco. Uh, I'm surprised some of these folks are associated with this. To be frank,
Yeah.
so I hope they research what they're getting into here. Um, but anyway, uh,
And then one other event is called Work It. It's down in Los Angeles. I guess it's a women's focused podcasting event.
real is it from workit.com or is it what's the website?
That's what I'm pulling up here.
Oh, Workit is that's some sort of see if I can find it here. Oh, it's W E
I mean,
R K, Rob, is how it's spelled.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So it's at work WERK it festival.com, and it's a women's
yeah.
podcast festival October 3rd to the 5th. Huh.
It's put on by WNYC,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
it's not cheap to go to either. It's $550.
wow,
It's got a festival pass of $499, 2-day work it pass $350, podcast boot camp pass $200. And who are some of the presenters here?
it's actually a festival, is what they're calling it.
So some of these ladies I know.
There's a 1-day podcast boot camp, 1-day course.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be at the theater at Ace Hotel in downtown Los Angeles.
Well, they definitely have some powerhouse women in this event, so they've definitely got some good presenters here. So,
Yeah,
and it's actually
yeah, I thought so too.
it's a one, two, how many days event is this? 3-day event, October 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Through
So
the
a three
fifth,
three
right?
day event. So wow, very very cool. So that should be a fun event for this designed for the ladies.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that men aren't banned from this event, but they
Yeah,
certainly are not the focus of the event.
no, the only all women podcasting festival on planet work presents workshops, demonstrations, mentoring sessions, and not safe for work conversations about working in audio and digital media, plus networking opportunities, cocktail parties, and live podcast tapings at the theater at Ace Hotel in downtown LA. They're doing a 1-day boot camp. Awesome. So yeah, they I wonder what their attendance is going to be on this.
I don't know. It's got a it's got a very strong focus on public radio, though. Yeah, public media.
Well, let's look at the topic lineup because that will often tell you. But just the women that are presenting, there should be.
Yeah.
Women are going to get something out of this.
Well,
Myth, all the great.
there's definitely other shows here that are not part of public radio that
No,
are
there's a lot. And the
presenting. Yeah.
the topics, Rob, do not look like they're really radio focused. Now, some of their keynotes are a little bit, um,
Yeah.
but their top
Oh
their
no, it's not radio focused, but
you know
yeah, I agree.
their sessions are pretty pretty broad. So, well, anyway, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many events. Oh my God, unbelievable.
I know that there's a lot, and I'm not really planning on going too many of them because there's just too many of them. I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
which one do you go to?
you'd spend all your time on the road. Next year, I
Yeah.
might maybe have to look and see what Mackenzie's schedule is. Maybe I can send her out for this. And anyway, cool beans. There's no sponsorships. There's no exhibitors, nothing like that. So it's pretty non-commercial.
Yeah.
It, it definitely. So they're paying for it through. Oh, there are some sponsors. Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Annenberg Foundation, Kohan, MAC, KCRW, and KPCC. So you have definitely all radio folks that help. It's
Yeah.
funded in part by a grant. So
So it looks like that the live podcast tapings that they're going to do there are brought to the audience by WNYC Studios and KCRW. So KCRW is also involved in this. That would make sense being in LA.
okay, so here's the can men attend? The daytime sessions at Work It, including the podcast boot camp, are created by and for people who identify as women. We also encourage attendees who identify as gender queer, gender non-binary, and other to join us. People who identify as men are welcome to purchase tickets to the live podcast tapings in the evenings. Woke dudes, what is a woke dudes? Might also like our podcast feed. I think what they're saying is men stay the hell away. you're not welcome. I think that's what they're saying there.
Really?
Well, it's kind of it says you can come to the live tapings. Yeah, come to that. They're not saying you're not and you can't come, but they're definitely saying that they created by and for people who identify as women. So they're trying to hint there. They're not saying you're not allowed, but you're probably it's probably you're
Discouraged.
probably
Yeah, you
discouraged in attending. That's cool. It's all right. Uh,
interesting, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's fun. If I created an event like that and made it men only, and said the same, if I said the daytime sessions are working, including podcast bootcamp, recruiting by and for people who identify as men. We also encourage it. If I said that, if I had an event like that, I would be crucified. I would be crucified. So it's okay.
So where did you say or see this kind of
It's
sentence
at
or
it's
whatever?
at the bottom. It's on their FAQ.
Oh, on their FAQ. I was
Yeah,
curious
yeah.
where this was. Oh, can men attend? Okay, here it is. Huh.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, it's cool. And it's fine. I think it's good for the ladies to have an event to go to.
That is that is really interesting. Okay.
And they were very careful on how they wrote that, weren't they? That probably went through legal.
Woke
Yeah,
dudes
what is a
might also like what is a woke dude?
that must be. We'll have to look at the woke. Is that what it's called? It's called woke dudes. Woke
Yeah, woke news.
Urban Dictionary. Woke. Oh my. Oh no. Oh, listen to this. A state of perceived intellectual superiority one gains by reading the Huffington Post. Ellie is woke. What? That's what the being woke means being aware, knowing what's going on in the community. Okay, that's better. Woke, although an incorrect tense of awake, a reference to how people should be aware in current affairs. Getting woke is like being in the Matrix, and so that's kind of a cool play on words. Woke dudes, and in other words, dudes that are aware of what's going on in the space. Not if you're not one that you, not not someone that reads the Huffington Post.
Yeah, I thought that was funny though about the whole Huffington Post part
Yeah,
of
that was in the
it.
Urban Dictionary. You know,
Yeah,
it's a good idea too if you're getting ready to name your podcast to come to the Urban Dictionary and make sure that the names that you're using in your podcast don't have some alternative meanings. Because I've heard some podcasts before. I'm like, do you know what that really? Do you know what that reference is? You know, so
yeah, yeah. But that's an interesting reference in there.
woke
Woke
dudes.
news
Rob,
might also like our podcast feed.
we're woke dudes.
I guess so. I guess so because we're even talking about this
Yeah,
show.
yeah, we're aware, knowing what's going on
We
in the
are.
community.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. I, I won't be attending this conference.
yeah. But you ought to send one of the ladies from the Spreaker team. You ought to, you had some ladies at the Spreaker team. You ought to send one of the ladies down.
Well, they would have to fly all the way in from Europe.
Oh, was the gals that were at Podcast Movement, were they from Europe?
Yeah, they're all
Oh,
from Italy.
oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I
Yes.
thought they were in New York or something. So,
Yeah,
oh,
both
cool.
of them. Both of them. Nope.
Awesome.
But but we do have some women that are working for Blog Talk Radio in New York, so
Oh, that's right.
they could always come out.
That's right. You guys are one and the same now. And can you say anything? How's the merger going?
It's happening more and more every week, so we're getting
Uh,
more in cahoots.
in cahoots. More and more every week. That's about as vague as it gets. So any other details, Rob?
Uh, Not really yet. I think we're just still kind of pulling all the pieces together and getting the teams talking to each other and working more together. It's a process. Both companies had their separate ways of doing things and their separate product lines, and so it's a little bit of a transition
Uh,
to merge. Like board of directors between the two companies are trying to merge together and come up with a new board and a new company. So it's a it's a process.
it's a challenge. I can imagine it is a challenge. So
Yes.
better you than me. Okay. I think this is going to bring us to the end. Kind of a weird show today. We were all over the place. So thanks for those that hung
Yeah.
out. You guys stayed hardcore all the way to the end on Facebook. Appreciate it. And then we had some folks on YouTube today as well. Not as many. Last week was the YouTube week. I don't know. We didn't. I wasn't paying attention, but everyone was on YouTube last week. For those of you on YouTube, we're always on Facebook Live too if you want to come in and comment. But or newmediashow.com/live is the place to come hang. So, Rob, I
Yeah, I
get it.
think it's.
Go ahead.
I was just going to mention. I think it's about time that we get get a guest or two in here
Yeah, I
again.
think so too.
So I think it would be good. I'll do some thinking on that and see who I can
Scrounge up.
drag up.
Yeah. So
Yes.
just so you know, I get on a jet plane this afternoon, or actually tonight, and to the East Coast all next week. I fly back on Saturday,
Really?
so no Saturday show next Saturday. It'll have to be Sunday.
Okay.
And then I think we're good. I'll be able to, of course, on the 30th, we got to decide what we're going to do on podcast, International Podcast Day. And
Yeah, I'm actually probably not going to be doing anything with that event at this point.
okay,
Uh,
I've got a couple of things I have to do with them. I've got a big prep week too. As soon as I get back, I've got the award ceremony to get ready for. So I'm going to be quite literally assholes and elbows all week getting ready for that. So,
So
um,
let's plan on doing shows the next 2 weeks on Sunday then.
oh, okay. So do one. Oh, well, here's the problem. The 30th is the International Podcast Day, and on the 1st, I leave. What time do I fly out on the 1st? Let me look. I should be able to do. Let me look at my flight schedule because I think I leave at like noon. So I think I still be able to do one on Sunday the 1st. Oh, come on,
Okay.
sign me in. God, what browser am I in? No wonder. United's got this thing that they. Okay, sign in, sign in, sign in. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. But I think my flight's late enough that I should have no problem doing a show on October 1st on Sunday.
Okay. So
And
let's just plan on uh, the 24th and the 1st.
all right, sounds good. And of course, if
Okay.
you are listening to this show and you're listening and haven't subscribed yet, we want you to subscribe. And you can do audio or video. So either way's fine. And
Yes, it is.
but we appreciate you hanging out with us. And but we'll see you on the next go around here of the New Media Show. And of course, reach out to me, Todd at blueberry.com, or Rob.
Rob at Spreaker.com or Rob at robgreenlee.com, either one. And Twitter is a great place to follow me. I post a lot of stuff that's going on in the podcasting space on my Twitter account. And I know, Todd, you do a lot of that too.
Yeah.
So,
And we do have a, Twitter account actually for this show. It's at NMS Podcast. So if you want to follow the Twitter feed, you can do that for this particular show. But everyone, thanks for being here. And we'll see you next Sunday on the New Media Show. Everyone, take care. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
okay. Take care. Bye.